Well, for more on the situation in Libya, I'm joined by our international affairs editor, Armen Georgian. And Armen, talk us through how this latest development affects the balance of power in Libya.
Well, that's still evolving very rapidly because the news as of this Friday morning is that the Government of National Accord, or GNA, the Tripoli-based government, says that it has entered the center of Tarhuna, that city that was mentioned at the end of the report before you just before you came to me, a very important city, actually, 80 kilometers southeast of Tripoli, which has been crucial to Marshal Haftar's supply lines, and also a town which served as a springboard really for his operation against Tripoli. So if this is confirmed as a success for the GNA, that would be a double blow for Haftar now that he's essentially had to retreat from his positions around Tripoli itself, and that siege, which had lasted nearly just over a year, the siege of Tripoli, has effectively ended now. The way that Haftar's spokesman is spinning these setbacks is to say, well, we've redeployed. So redeployment is the euphemism that's being used now. He says we're redeploying in order to give UN-backed ceasefire efforts a chance. It's not clear, though, that the GNA will want to come to the negotiating table right now, because obviously this military offensive seems, for the moment, to be working for the GNA.
And Armen, the UN is once again urging peace talks. Is that even going to be possible, given the number of foreign powers who have a stake and an interest in Libya right now?
Well, right now, given that Marshal Haftar looks a little bit more shaky militarily, it might be more in his interest to come to peace talks than the other side. But Haftar is far from finished. I mean, just last month, there was a report about the United Arab Emirates allegedly brokering a deal to bring mercenaries from Sudan into Libya in order to help Haftar. And the UAE is one of a number of countries that has been supporting him. Others include Egypt. Saudi Arabia at certain points has helped him. So has Russia. So he still has plenty of support. I think the sort of salient feature of the conflict in the last few months has been this Syrianization of the Libyan conflict. So you've had Turkey and Russia bringing their proxy war from Syria into Libya. You now have exactly the same client militias that had been used by Turkey and Russia in Syria. Turkey and Russia are using those very same militias to go at each other in Libya. And that's why there's been an escalation that the UN has called a massive influx of weaponry. This despite a UN embargo, of course, on Libya. So the UN is very concerned about the military escalation as a result of this growing proxy war. And of course, as in Syria, it's the civilians who suffer. The UN saying that Libyans have been lost in the mix. So when you look at what the UN says, it makes for a very grim deja vu to anyone who's been looking at how the Syrian conflict has evolved. And of course, both of those wars or conflicts have now been going on for nearly a decade.
Armen, thank you very much indeed. Armen Georgian there. And that brings us up to date with the international news this hour. Do stay tuned.